Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Lewis, in our review of the Fed's documents, it reveals that in contrast to your representations to us today, Fed officials concluded that you must have known about the accelerating losses at Merrill much earlier, as early as mid-November, when your shareholders could have voted to disapprove the merger. Now, an email from a senior advisor sent to Assistant to Chairman Bernanke on December 13, 2008, and it's up there on the board for everyone to see, writes of clear signs in the data we have that the deterioration at Merrill Lynch has been observably underway over the entire quarter, albeit picking up significantly around mid-November. Ken Lewis's claim that they were surprised by the rapid growth of the losses seems somewhat suspect, unquote. Another memo, restricted Federal Reserve analysis of Bank of America and Merrill Lynch merger dated December 21, 2008. BAC management contention that the severity of Merrill's losses only came to light in recent days is problematic and implies substantial deficiencies in the due diligence carried out in advance of and subsequent to the acquisition. Talking about Merrill's losses, were clearly shown in Merrill Lynch's internal risk management reports that Bank of America reviewed during their due diligence, unquote. And then there's an email from the Fed General Counsel to Chairman Bernanke on December 23, 2008. Quote, Lewis should have been aware of the problems at Merrill Lynch earlier, perhaps as early as mid-November, and not caught by surprise. That could cause other problems for him around the disclosures Bank of America made for the shareholder vote. Now, Mr. Lewis, I'm going to ask you a series of simple questions, and if you're not forthcoming, I'm not going to have any choice but to interrupt you and I'm asking for your cooperation. Isn't it true that Bank of America examined Merrill Lynch's book of business before signing the merger agreement and then received detailed financial reports every week from Merrill Lynch after signing the merger agreement on September 15th?
That is true.
And isn't it true that the Merrill losses of mid-December that you claim motivated you to go to the government were not the largest week-to-week losses at Merrill you observed since agreeing to purchase the company? In fact, wasn't the week-to-week loss experienced in mid-November larger than the one in mid-December?
The losses that were causing this forecast to increase were partly based on losses in November. So I'm not saying that the losses in that time frame were what caused the increase. It was the increased projections of the losses based on some of those losses in November.
Mr. Chairman, I move to insert into the record a bar graph representing the week-to-week losses reported by Merrill Lynch to Bank of America, which clearly shows that the mid-November loss exceeded the one in mid-December.
Without objection.
I also move to insert an analysis by a statistics expert finding that the mid-November loss should have alerted Bank of America to an accelerating deterioration in Merrill Lynch, and the loss evident in mid-December merely confirms a trend apparent in mid-November. Now, Mr. Lewis, isn't it true that you understood the composition and performance of Merrill's portfolio because it was similar to your own in that it was a portfolio that contained complex structured derivative products? Isn't that true?
It is true. The issue, though, is nobody predicted a meltdown that occurred in the fourth quarter of 2008.
But you were getting weekly reports, and you certainly understood Merrill because of the similarities in the composition and performance of their portfolio. Now, our investigation found that the Fed believed you should have understood the potential for losses at Merrill because your own portfolio was similar to Merrill's. I want you to look at the following from the Fed's restricted analysis of Bank of America and the Merrill Lynch merger dated December 21st, 2008. Quote, the potential for losses from other risk exposures cited by management, including those coming from leveraged loans and trading in complex structured credit derivative products, what they also call correlation trading, should also have been reasonably well understood, particularly as Bank of America itself is also active in these products, unquote. Now, Mr. Lewis, how do you explain the apparent contradiction between your sworn testimony and the Fed's findings that you knew about the acceleration in losses and the potential for future losses as early as mid-November?
I can only tell you what I just said, that part of the November losses were causing this projection that we were getting in December. And so they were a factor in the increased projection.
Gentlemen, my time has expired, so let me yield now to the ranking member